Hi, this is Kathy with Virtually Strings coming with the fact question of the week. The question this week is it better to rent or to purchase a violin? Well, with renting and purchasing, there are a lot of pros and there are a lot of cons. So let's kind of look over some of them. First, with renting, one of the pros is if a child doesn't like the violin, you can usually return it with less money out of pocket. For example, if a child decides after 3 months that they do not like the violin, yay, you're usually doing like $90 to $100 out of pocket versus a couple of $1,000s if you buy it full outright, maybe even $500 if you're looking at a smaller instrument. Even a year down the road, child doesn't like the violin, they say, Mom, Dad, I don't want to play this anymore. You're looking at a couple of $100s. Still a lot less than $2,000, $1,000, $500, depending on the size of the instrument. As the child grows, so does the violin. Most rent-to-own agreements, this is one of the most wonderful things about these rent-to-own agreements. If you purchase a violin at a size 8, the child is going to grow, and so the violin needs to grow as well. Usually these rental-own agreements will say, hey, guess what? You rented from us. Let's go ahead and bump you up to the next size, and the money from your rent-to-own agreement from the previous violin, the smaller one, will roll right back over into the new violin. And you can keep on going like this until you get into a full-size violin. Okay, another pro is usually they have a maintenance plan. If a string breaks, some of the maintenance plans covers broken strings. So you can take it in and say, hey, my string broke. Okay, let's take care of that. Bridge breaks. Hey, my bridge broke. I need to get a new bridge. Oh, I need a new bow. There's like very little bow hair on my bow. They usually cover that. Another thing that they will also cover in maintenance programs is usually theft. Okay, so usually you can get theft insurance. That means if somebody decides to come steal the violin, you're covered. You can get a replacement violin. Okay, so a con, pretty much the only one I can think of right offhand for a con for a rent or rent-to-own agreement is you have to keep up with the payments. If you're one of these people, which I can be sometimes, and pretty much a lot of people can be, you may forget, oh, I forgot a payment, I have to go in. So you're gonna actually have to pay a late payment. So that's something that you're gonna have to take in consideration. All right, so purchasing, if you purchase it outright, you don't have to worry about payments. Who knew? Yeah, no, I'm just joking right there. No, honestly, you don't have to worry about payments if you purchase it outright. A second pro is you can usually get it at a less expensive price. That means dealers a lot of times are more likely to give you a discount if you purchase it outright versus doing a rent-to-own agreement. However, there are going to be some cons. You're not going to be able to get that maintenance plan, okay? Nor theft insurance. Those are two things right there you have to consider. String breaks, well, you have to replace it, okay? Sometimes those strings can get pretty expensive. Your bridge breaks, usually you're going to be paying $30, $40 out of pocket. You need a new bow, okay, you're going to have to pay again $30, $40 out of pocket. So that's another thing to consider. When your child has to go into a new size, if they start off on an 8 size, you're going to be looking at 5 different violins, okay? They're going to grow. However, if you start off with a full-size violin, may not be such a con as much as, say, a 8th size, okay? However, consider this. When you're buying a full-size violin, you need to remember that if that child just barely started, they may still decide a year later, I don't want to play this anymore. So you may still be out of pocket. So keep that in mind if they are still a brand new violin player. If they've been playing for quite a while, then it's actually probably better just to go ahead and purchase a full-size violin. Also, when you're buying it on the internet, you don't always know if you're going to actually get a gem or if you're going to get one that's going to fall apart. Those are some things you have to be very, very careful about when you're buying on when you buy on the internet. So here's some tips when you're purchasing online. Here's some things to look for. Read the reviews. The reviews are going to help you a lot to determine if the violin is going to be one that's going to fall apart or if it's going to be one that's going to be a high quality violin. Read the return policies. Return policies online are going to be different versus return policies in store. Okay, so that's going to be second thing you need to do. Make sure you always use a credit card. Do not use a debit card. Seriously, do not use a debit card when you're purchasing online. You can actually stop payments on a credit card if you're having a disagreement with the company versus with the debit card. Debit cards, it's a lot harder to get that money replaced. Look for brands that are really well known in the community. That means go ask your orchestra teachers, go ask your private teachers, go ask anybody you know who has some knowledge about string instruments. Go online and ask the community, okay? Ask string communities. There's string communities all online. There's fiddlers, classical violinists, violinist.com, strings.com. These are people that can tell you, okay, hey, these are some instruments that you want to stay away from, or these are some manufacturers who are really, 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 really well known and being very high quality. Understand that quality probably is going to be a little money, okay? A $40 violin generally is going to sound a lot different from a $1,000 violin to a $10,000 violin. Okay, if you're buying a $10,000 violin, don't buy it online. Sorry, you want to make sure that violin sounds good. But no, seriously though, you're going to be putting a little bit more money into pocket. So you want to make sure you're going to get a high quality violin. Tips for purchasing or renting it in store. Take a private teacher with you, take somebody who knows a string instrument with you. They can help you steer you away from ones that are probably not going to be as good versus ones that are going to be really, really well sounding. Have your child listen to the violin and see if they like it. That's going to be the key right there. They may not like the violin sound, and if they don't like it, they're going to be less wanting to play the violin. If they love the sound, they're more likely going to want to play the violin. Checks for cracks. Sometimes on the body, there's a vertical crack on the violin, especially if it's a used violin. And you want to take care of that right there. If it has a crack, don't purchase the violin. Unless, of course, you have a luthier with you, and the luthier is somebody who repairs violins or other string instruments. Unless you have a luthier with you, avoid violins that have a crack going straight down the middle, okay? Because that can actually cause problems with the violin later on down the road. Check your pegs and your fingerboards, okay? I'm not talking about chin rest. Chin rest is something different. Sometimes chin rests have a different type of wood. But pegs and fingerboards usually are made from something called ebony. Okay, ebony is a hard wood. It's a high quality wood. You want to make sure that it's not painted, but it's actually really deep, dark wood. It can go from a really rich, dark brown to a black color. Now, understand, sometimes some of these manufacturers actually varnish it and it kind of looks a little painted. So you need to look, if it looks like it's painted, look underneath the fingerboard and see if there's a discoloration. If the wood still looks pretty dark, it's probably safe. If it looks really light, chances are it's been painted. Okay, so these are some pros and cons and some tips in regards to renting versus purchasing. If you have questions, email me at virtuallystrings12@gmail.com. Have a great day!